Hey, good morning, good morning. It's Friday again. And I'm super excited about jumping on and talking today about what I believe is the one thing that causes the most amount of unhappiness, the most amount of pain. And of course, that's emotional pain, but can be definitely physical pain as well as our stress levels potentially increase and things kind of happening with our bodies. So, good morning. Hey, Sal. Great to have you on, sweetheart. Hey, Louise. Say hi if you're jumping on. It's great to have you on here. Hey, Erica. Always love you tuning in, darling. Hey, Chris. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Lisa. Lovely to have you guys on. Hey, Paul. So awesome to have everybody on here. So I truly appreciate it. And definitely, I think that this topic is so relevant as well. And I was just like tapping into what was going on for myself this morning as well. And thank you so much, Sal. I appreciate that. Hey, beautiful day. It's so great to have you on here. Hey, Helen. Give me lots of love. It's Friday. It's always great to get love on Friday. So, the one thing, I will put you out of the suspension immediately as well. Hey, Christy. Hey, Leah. Great to have you all on here. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I will take you out of your suspension. The one thing is judgment. And I really want to dive deep with this particular thing because it's the judgment of our circumstances. It's the judgment of ourselves. It's the judgment of others. It's the judgment of how things should be or how they shouldn't be. And it's the judgment that actually causes so much pain and so much suffering. It creates so much resistance and pushing against what is. And that's where the real, frustration comes in. That's where challenges come up in our physical body. And I'm going to explain and unpack all of this for you guys as well. Hey, Alistair. Hey, Narelle. It's so powerful when you really come back to this place. And Byron Katie's taught me so much about this as well. Hey, Michelle. Great to have you on, honey. And but judgment really comes back to, is this good or is this bad? It's judging our circumstances to be either not good or exceptional. And hey, Rach, great to have you on. And the challenge with this is it's either good or it's bad. And being able to find, the gifts in everything is really that's my life philosophy, and it's really what changed my whole entire spectrum when I went through my major life challenges back in 2008. And I know that was such a long time ago. Hey, Christy. Yeah, definitely, Alistair. It sounds like you're very familiar with Byron Katie's work, and I truly, that work has changed my life in so many aspects because it takes the ego survival mind out of it. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Lisa. Great to have you guys on. It really does take the ego survival mind out of it and bring us back to our real self, which has that higher perspective and can look at different things in a different way as well. And I was just noticing this morning, even as I was walking around my house, and it's like the judgment that was kind of coming up. I'd see a couple of clothes on the floor, and it's just and I'm a real one for having a tidy house and things like that. And it was just noticing the resistance or noticing the judgment around that actually being there, that I hadn't picked it up immediately. It was only there 5 minutes later, but it was just and I was, because when I jump onto these videos, I really want to be able to break it down in a relatable way that you can totally use and implement for yourself as well. So it's really just starting to notice, what am I judging in my life? What have I made wrong? Or what have I made bad? And I know, this, when we're going through major challenges, I do want to bring complete compassion to this as well, because it's our natural instinct, it's our natural reaction to go, oh my God, this is terrible. I know I certainly felt that way when my mum was first diagnosed with cancer, and and my marriage was falling apart, and there was all this stuff happening, and it was so challenging at the time. And of course, my instant normal reaction, the survival mind, is freaking out at that point. It wants total certainty. It needs security. It needs to feel safe. It needs to know that it's enough and that it's loved. So anything that threatens that or anything that challenges that, we start to judge. And that is the ego mind, survival mind's job, is to protect us and to keep us safe. And it does that. It does a very good job of that by going, oh, I need to move away from anything that could potentially hurt me or harm me, and I need to move towards something that's going to keep me safe, that's something that's going to keep me secure. And this is where the judgment comes in, because it's and it's different to discernment. I think discernment really comes from more intuition, rather than from a place of fear of that could really hurt me or that's really bad. Hey Andrea, great to have you on too, honey. And so where this really comes into play, I guess, or if we're going to break it down in, it's really starting to notice around what are you currently judging in your life, or where have you judged in your life as well. And this doesn't become then another judging game on judging yourself for judging either. So we all have a judge and a victim, and this is it's really two sides of the same coin. And this came out of the Warrior Goddess training book as well, which I really loved, because it broke it down into, I guess, a way that is quite easy to understand too. Hey Dee, great to have you on, beautiful. Hey Sandy, love having you on here, hun. So when we have that judge and we have that victim, so we have the voice of the judge, the inner critic, that's giving us a hard time, or perhaps it's comparing us to other people, or perhaps it's comparing circumstances. So and we're judging constantly, because it's like, well, have I got enough money in the bank? And then judging ourselves for if we've got bills perhaps that haven't been attended to, or things like that. Or perhaps maybe we're judging ourselves for having too much money, feeling too greedy, and a lot of people have funky stuff around money as well. I've had to do a lot of work around money and my own money mindset to feel really comfortable about money and to have a great relationship with money as well. We can place judgments on others, and this is where, when we're triggered by somebody else's behavior, and we're like, I just wish they'd change, or I wish they'd do something different, or gosh, they shouldn't be that way, or they shouldn't be that selfish, or they shouldn't be this, or they shouldn't be that. All of that is our own ego survival mind judgments, which have come from 0 to 7, when we're learning about how we need to be in the world. Thank you so much, Sandy. That's beautiful. So definitely, like, we've taken on board all of our parents' beliefs, all of the adults around us, all of the subconscious programming and patterning that's gone in at a deep level, that's told us who we need to be and how we need to be in the world in order to be loved, in order to feel enough and to be accepted and to belong in our tribe. And the problem with this is it really does keep us stuck on so many levels, because it's all about belonging, fitting in, subscribing, conforming, and then we judge ourselves harshly if we're stepping outside of that. Now, I know each and every one of you have got the most powerful dreams or goals, and even if you're not clear on what they are, I know that there's a deeper part of you that yearns for more as well. And definitely I'll answer that in a second too for you, Alistair. Yeah, okay. I'll definitely dive into that as well. So I'm kind of completely distracted by that. I do apologize. I will come back to that. So definitely with where we're judging ourselves and we're trying to conform, we're trying to fit in, we want to belong and be a part of something, but there's also a deeper part of us that also just wants to live our own truth, that wants to be who we actually really are. Perhaps, you've been told as a child you needed to go to uni, you needed to get a good job, you needed to get a good education, everything else, and you've got this burning passion and desire to run off and be an amazing entrepreneur, or you've got this amazing, incredible desire to unleash this idea that is really going to help and impact the world in a powerful way. And so we get caught in this inner conflict between our ego survival mind of wanting to fit in, wanting to belong, wanting to be accepted, and then the soul that really wants to express itself and express the largest part of itself. Now, our soul will never, generally the will of the ego and the will of the survival mind will outrun or override the deeper longing for the soul as well. And this is why creating, because it will never force, and it's not that it's separate to us or anything like that, but we have free will. So if our ego survival mind, if that's the loudest voice, and generally it is, I know mine can get pretty loud in my head at times, particularly my drill sergeant aspect, where she's like, you've got to get this done, and you've got to, which all comes comes from that previous conditioning from 0 to 7 and all those programs that have been loaded in there too. Hey Fiona, great to have you on, honey. Hey Deb, lovely to have you on, hun. So definitely the more that we're stuck in that ego survival mind, then we're constantly judging our environment, we're judging the things around us, we're judging what's actually happening, and we have all of these then stories or all of these beliefs, stories that we've just thought for so long. Thank you so much, Christy Lee, that's beautiful. Hey Ricky. So we have all these stories then that get built up over time, that we've told ourselves this story about how things are or about how life is or how this is unfair. I had that story for a long time where I was in the victim. So my judge was judging my circumstances and going, this is horrible, this is bad, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening, life's unfair. All of those stories, which after I told them for a while, I started to believe that was true. And then that started to create my reality, which then just further anchored those beliefs. And then I became the victim of my story, the victim of my circumstances, where life was happening to me, not for me. And I know that's a pretty famous quote by Tony Robbins. And like I've been to a lot of Tony's courses. That man changed my life, because at a time when I couldn't think positively or change things in my head, like by having his voice in my head, literally, with listening to audios and everything every day. And many of you have heard that story before, but like that was literally what I did to change my mindset, because I was so trained or entrained, I'd entrained my own mind with the neural pathways to be thinking in that particular way. And that's where like our stress hormones rise up, because there's more cortisol happening. Joe Dispenza's also done some amazing work in this area. If you're wanting to jump in, hey Margaret, great to have you on, babe. Joe Dispenza's definitely done some amazing work where he really teaches, like, we become chemically addicted to our emotions, and that's because every single emotion has a certain biochemical makeup of neurotransmitters and cortisol levels and adrenaline and everything else, and we develop receptor sites on our cells that are like little hungry birds that want to be fed. So this is why, and he wrote a great book called The Habit of Breaking Your now I've totally forgotten what it actually is, but it's something like The Habit of Breaking Yourself, or Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's it. Something like that anyway. And it really is about breaking those habits of the habitual emotions that we actually experience. And a lot of that has come in from this judgment. And it's needing to feel safe, it's needing to feel secure. And they've done scientific studies, even in the most basic ways of chicken cells that they took and they put into this petri dish, and they had a hostile environment and they had a safe environment, like an environment that was very conducive for growth and for full function for the chicken cells. And the chicken cells that were in the hostile environment did not grow. They were just managing their survival state, and they did end up like aging for chicken cells like a lot quicker, whereas the ones that were in the growth environment, that were thriving, that were in this really supportive environment, all actually duplicated. So the fact of, are we in survival? Are we living in survival just from our thoughts, just from our judgments, just from being in our ego survival mind all the time with our thoughts, as opposed to being able to support ourselves with this beautiful growth environment and seeing how the challenging circumstances in our life are actually supporting our growth and perhaps our soul evolution as well. And that's what's really changed my life. Hey Rick, great to have you on. And it's made a huge difference, because when I could actually see those challenging events of my life, and everything that's happened since, every time something happens, it's like, oh, where's the lesson? Where's the growth? Where do I need to stretch or change? Or what's the inner belief that's created this circumstance, that once I change and shift that, then my whole external world shifts and changes. And it literally has. Hey Kim, great to have you on. Thank you so much, Alistair. That's fantastic. And I've just done like a lot of Joe's training, and I'm really excited. I'll be heading off to his 1 week retreat on the Gold Coast at the end of October as well. October's going to be crazy, amazing for me in many ways. Hey Mandy, great to have you on. So definitely, like, the more that we can come back and just ask ourselves a different question, because you're asking whether you're conscious of this or not. And a lot of this is done kind of subconsciously until we become conscious of our thoughts, or more conscious of our thoughts. Thank you so much for the love. I appreciate that. When we become more conscious of our thoughts as well, then we can actually really start to figure out, or I guess see, what are the questions that we're constantly asking ourselves. And it really will be like, is this good or is this bad, or do I need more of this, or I need to protect myself from this, or what could I shift or change? So as we start to become more conscious, start to ask ourselves better quality questions. Hey Anne, great to have you on. That's so fabulous, Deb. How wonderful. What a great gift to the world as well too, hun. And I think, the more that we can really understand the differences between that ego mind and survival mind, and listening to that inner voice that already knows, like, everything's taken care of. And I know for me, my ego survival mind, it wants control all the time. It freaks out, it worries, it stresses, it wants to know what's going to happen in the future, and it wants absolute certainty. My heart, my soul, like the largest part of me is like, it's gonna be fine. It's just like, it's all working out perfectly. And it's so funny, because when I rest into that, it's just like, I feel so supported. I feel so taken care of. My whole autonomic nervous system relaxes, where those chemicals of stress and cortisol and everything else, and I don't know if you guys have done much research, and totally, absolutely, Deb, better questions, better life, 100%. And hey, Lynn, great to have you on. Hey, Marguerite. So I'm definitely going to come back and answer your questions, Alistair. I love your interaction there as well. So with, like I said, now I've lost track again. Hey, Christy. Yeah, so you can kind of really relate to that. So we do get into that controlling state when we're freaking out, or, even just day-to-day life. It's like we want to know, we want to have it all sorted. We want to know that it's all going to work out. And the more that I just relax into and let myself be taken care of, knowing full well that the better my energy is, and the more positive that I'm thinking, and not from a false positiveness. It's kind of like writing in a gratitude book. Like, it feels sometimes like we're just reading or writing empty words. It really is knowing how to shift yourself and having true emotional mastery. And I've spent a lot of time studying this and working on myself around this, because it is the key, like I've found for me, to changing our life completely. Because if you're able to be in a world where, things, the ego mind's judging it and going, oh, this is not great, this is not good, and you are able to go, wow, this is so great, this is giving me great feedback of what I need to shift and change internally, and instead of then still judging that and being the victim, then we become the creator of our reality, and we really step into owning ourselves at a different level, and really starting to shift our beliefs. So I used to have so many limiting beliefs, had to work really, really hard to make money. Now I make money doing exactly what I love, with people that I love and totally align with. I used to have beliefs, I had no time. Like, I have more time than I've ever had before, and I'm making more money. So it's kind of like, the more that we do the inner work, and I certainly don't say that from a bragging point or an ego point, it's just like, when you do the inner work, so much can shift. And I'm just in such a different place than what I was like 10 years ago, when I first became a single mom, and I was only earning $300 a week, and I was just terrified, and I was working like ridiculous hours. I was studying, I was trying to build my business. There was so much going on at that time. My girls were only 5 and 7. So, there's been a huge shift around all of that by doing the inner work, and it's exactly what Deb says. So I'll just come back to your question, Alistair, which is, so asking, over the last year while listening to Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie, what's the carry forward gold about ego mindset? It's really just about becoming conscious. And what I notice, it's the more tuned in you are with your feelings. So I've noticed for myself, I use Abraham Hicks, and some of you may be familiar. If not, Jerry and Esther Hicks are, Jerry's passed now, but Esther Hicks would receive information through, and the entity was Abraham Hicks, or is Abraham Hicks. And honestly, like, it's been the most incredible information that I've ever received, and it really, really resonated for truth, like internal truth for me. And so a lot of that, they speaks so much about our feelings and being aware of our feelings. Our feelings are such indicators of, hang on, we're heading off a track, we're starting to create something that we don't want to create. And what I've felt, or what I feel is true, is when we get to a certain level with our feelings. So Abraham Hicks has like this emotional guidance scale, which down the bottom, some of you are familiar with this, is like powerlessness, anger, frustration, overwhelm, all of those emotions. And then we get into boredom, curiousness, contentment, hopeful, positive expectation, passion. And I think, when we shift from those lower energy emotions are definitely the ego mindset. Because our heart, our soul, the largest part of ourself, truly knows that everything is lining up. And even, it's that beautiful tapestry of life where the synchronicities, and even when like the ego is going, oh, it's not happening the way that it should. And even with courses I've ran, it's like, oh my God, there's not enough people like to fill a course or something like that. But then something else will happen. And when I just let go of needing to control it, things are taken care of. I had a beautiful experience with a teenage girls program that I ran last year, and just let go of needing to control it. I think I had like 10 or 12 people. I'd had this massive hall booked out, and next minute I had a high school ring me and go, they were a boarding school, we're bringing over 50, 60 girls, have you got room for us? And it was just like, oh my God. It's so incredible when we let go of that need to control, need to force things to happen, when we're in that struggle and everything else. So I really believe, like, if there's anything, I guess the goal to take out of that too, Alistair, for me, is definitely being tuned into my feelings. I know if I'm in lower level emotions, my mind is judging something. It's creating a source of suffering simply because it's deemed something as wrong or as bad or as not going to be a good experience, if that makes sense. So it really is. And then being able to perceive that from the highest perspective of our soul, I wonder what's happening here. And even I was going to do another live video. I had an interesting experience with a car that I bought back in June, and I was so excited. I found this amazing Audi online on car sales. I went down to the BMW dealership down in Canberra, bought the car, had a mechanic go right through it, everything else, and kept on checking with them. I did have a funny kind of feeling about it, which I didn't actually listen to at the time, so again, that intuition, but it was just like I needed to have that experience. So basically, long story short, it was a beautiful car, but mechanically it was not sound. And the dealership were fabulous, by the way. They really took great care of me, because I also had that trust that, no matter what, this is all going to work out okay, and there's obviously a lesson or something in there. So long story short, my car was drinking like 1 litre of oil every 400 to 500 Ks, which is kind of like it was almost using as much oil as it was fuel, which of course we all know is not great when it comes to cars. But there was a real lesson for me around that, because it was beautiful on the outside. Like, it just looked gorgeous on the outside, but it lacks substance internally as well. So it's like when we're taking that next step, when we're taking that next level, we've got to make sure we change the internal mindset and what's going on internally, so that our world then reflects that. And if you've got challenges going on, I always say, today's experience is nothing more than feedback from yesterday's thoughts. That's all. And so when we actually can come from that place, it's like, oh my God, I'm getting some great feedback around this. Instead of judging it and going, oh my God, this is wrong, this is bad, it lets us know. The world is constantly letting us know what we need to shift and change internally. So on Wednesday, I picked up an amazing BMW. And I'm so excited about it, and I'm truly aligned with it. And this one's white, it's not black. It doesn't look quite as sexy in terms of its appearance, but it's more congruent with me. So it's amazing, and doing obviously the internal stuff around that as well. So I just want to answer a couple of, so thank you so much for putting that info on there as well, Alistair. Yeah, I've actually got the heart monitor. So what Alistair is actually speaking about is really that heart-brain coherence. And I did a video on being in a high beta brain waves a while ago, and how it actually our brain starts to separate and compartmentalize. So it becomes like a community that's hasn't got enough water, hasn't got enough food. It's in a state of survival, and like everybody's against everybody else because everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not going to survive. I'm not going to be safe. And that's what actually happens in the brain. So that's when we feel confused. It's when we feel in a conflict. It's hard to make decisions. We feel a bit lost within ourselves. All of those things because we're living in this state of stress, and it actually triggers a lot of genetic hereditary genes and things like that. So it's switching on things that is really not helpful for our state of health and well-being as well. And so by doing the heart coherence, it's really, and I've spent some great time doing this, and I love it because when I'm tuning into the breath, and that's why our breath is such a great regulator, because it starts to switch our autonomic nervous system from sympathetic, which is that fight-flight state, back to parasympathetic, which is I can relax, I can take it easy, everything's okay, like all of that, and I can digest, and I can breathe, and I'm not in a state of survival. I know that I can thrive, I can grow from this particular state. So that's really, really important. And the more that our heart has coherence, our brain waves actually start to match that. And that's what a lot of Joe Dispenza's work is actually about, and it's so powerful as well. So I love that you actually brought that up. And what they did in the room with Joe was they've had a whole bunch of scientists there measuring literally the electromagnetic energy in the room. How cool is that? So as everybody's vibration rises from doing 4-day meditations, so they're measuring, and every single day the energy in the room is literally rising, and it's all been scientifically measured. But not only that, they did a focused experiment of where they had all the other people in the room focus loving, compassionate energy on 10 people in the front row, and simultaneously 95% of those people all went into heart coherence at the same time, like literally at the same time. I just find that's like so amazing, and it really highlights the power of I guess positive intention, prayer, affirmations, and sending that loving, compassionate energy to other people. And imagine what we could do in the world by people coming together and doing that together. Going back to a couple of other questions that you had, Alistair, I do meditate. I've meditated for years. Originally I only did like 2 minutes at a time because my mind was literally so crazy it would drive me insane listening to my own thoughts, and I was like, I need to get stuff done. And I've just slowly evolved. I didn't beat myself up around it. I remained curious with my experience, and then maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I really started to connect with my inner voice, and I tune in. It takes me like 2 to 5 minutes. I get great gaps or great pauses within my thoughts until I think, oh, I'm not thinking a thought, and then that's obviously a thought. But what that's actually really allowed is this beautiful space and this beautiful relationship with my higher self, where it's constantly giving me guidance as well. So any stresses or anything that's kind of going on, it's like, okay, where do I need to shift? What do I need to know? What do I need to be aware of? And I get given that information as well. A lot of my blogs that I write come from that intuitive sense as well, so it get brought through. So definitely shifting our energy, absolutely. Yeah, and curiosity is a great, certainly is a great emotion to have, and it's right on that cusp of shifting our the way that we're looking at things or the way that we're changing things. So one of the questions that I normally use when I notice if I'm in a funky state or I'm starting to judge something is, what do I want instead? So if I'm judging something to be bad or not be great, that means I'm focusing, I'm looking at, I'm creating more and more of that experience by looking at or judging what I don't want to experience. And then it's like, what do I want instead? I want to feel calm, or I want to feel relaxed, or I want to feel confident, or I want to feel more abundant, or like any of those things. So it's just really bringing myself back to that state, and then asking myself, what do I want instead? And it's a great flip question. and curiosity, it's kind of instead of judging ourselves for when we start to notice some of these things, a lot of the time we can then judge the judge and, oh, I shouldn't be doing that, or I shouldn't have acted that way, or, oh, there I go again, I've done it again. Instead of being that, be playful, be curious. I'm not always great at that, but I'm getting much better, and it brings a much lighter energy through. When you're judging yourself, you're creating resistance, because it's like, I shouldn't be this way, and it's like doing this where nothing can move. The second you take judgment away, it's like there's full fluidity, there's flexibility, we can change and we can shift without feeling like we've got to defend or justify or criticize or blame or do any of those things. All of those things are functions of the ego survival mind, because it's trying to protect us, it's trying to keep us safe. So it does a great job of that. But if it's the bus driver, if it's the one that's actually leading us, that's where we really can, I guess, create like a lot of more challenges and a lot more suffering in our life. The more that I allow my soul to lead the way by tuning in, by having that quiet time, my life has changed radically as a result of that as well. So yeah, no. I'm actually allergic to cats, Christy, so that's really funny. And I love that, Alistair. Yeah, what do I want instead? So such fabulous interaction on here today, guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. So I truly hope that that's been helpful for you. So really, just to break that down really simply, judgment is the thing that actually causes us the most, I guess, sadness or unhappiness. It's judging our circumstances. Like I said, when we start to really shift, hey Kerry, great to have you on here, when we really start to shift the way that we're actually looking at things, or maybe ask ourselves a question, what could be great about this? And I understand exactly, like I said, it took me 2 years to really become or get to a place of finding the blessings, finding the silver linings in my mother's passing. So, you know, if you're going through some major challenges, please don't beat yourself up at the moment. If it's difficult to see where it's helped you grow, or where it's helping you grow, or what it's actually teaching you at the time. I know that my mum's passing was all about me learning how to love myself, because up until that point I had no need. I had no idea. I was 32 and had no idea how to love myself. And so by my marriage breaking down and my mum passing away, you know, it was a massive learning curve for me in how to really love myself at that next level. And it served me all along as well. So hey Kerry and hey Kayla, great to have you guys on. So judgment is the key, moving out of judgment, because either we judge or we become the victim. So moving out of that, asking ourselves better quality questions, what's great about this, what do I want instead, and starting to emotionally master your emotions as well. And I do actually have 2 more spots available for my Authentic Happiness program. If you are local or you're away somewhere, you can actually tune in via live stream. It's running on the 8th and 9th of September. So if you want details on that, and it really is, it's a program I'm super proud of, and I feel like I was very drawn to create that as well, and it's absolutely changed my life. I've taken myself back through that process several times as well. So if that really resonates with you, or perhaps you're kind of thinking, oh my God, I need to learn more about how to emotionally master what's kind of going on for me, and be able to shift and change regardless of what's actually happening in your external environment, that is a true skill for life. And in my experience, it's just created a better and happier and more successful and fulfilling life in every life area, whether that's my health, whether that's relationships, whether that's money and wealth, all of those different key areas. It's truly made such a difference in. So lots of love to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing day, and I will catch you guys next Friday. Bye for now.